do have a booming voice. There it goes. Oh, okay, I'll say. Ready? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and happy 2016. Welcome to tonight's Board of Ed meeting being held in the Town Council Chambers. The date is Tuesday, January 12th, 2016. And I want to remind you that this meeting is being recorded, and please turn off all cell phones. Ellie, can you please do the roll call?
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Cassio?
Here.
Mrs. Fitzpatrick?
Here.
Mr. Forrest?
Here.
Mr. Hill?
Here.
Ms. Moon? Mrs. Paradise?
Present.
Mrs. Vazel?
Present.
Mr. Morris?
Here.
Good timing. And Chairperson Granato?
Present.
Wethersfield High School Student Representative? Mr. Peter Hahn?
Here.
All present.
Mr. Emmett, are there any staff or student recognition this evening?
Pledge of allegiance first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mia Tugis and Rachel Vassell, would you please come up the front and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Mia and Rachel. And now, Mr. Emmett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could please have our own Diane Adamson of Wethersfield High School and Dr. Joseph Olzaki please come to the podium. They're going to talk with us this evening about a rather excellent adventure that they attended back in December.
Good evening. Good evening. I think maybe, do you want to start just to give the inception of the program, or? Sure. Okay, do a little inception, and then I'll do what I
I'll do a
did.
little inception. My name is Dr. Joseph Olzaki, and I am the director of the Rwandan Teacher Education Program at the University of Hartford. Formerly, I was 13, 14 years with the Bloomfield Public Schools, and before that, the Region District 10 Public Schools as an arts administrator. About 2009, I was invited by UNESCO to lecture on a program that we were having called the Identity Project, which asks every student, what happens if someone strips you of everything that makes you you? And the answer was genocide. So I was asked by UNESCO to please come to Rwanda and to lecture about how we teach our students about genocide and how to prevent it. And that very meager beginning came up, created a wellspring of information that the Rwandan government needed help. They lost an entire a whole generation as a result of the 1994 genocide, with over 1 million people being exterminated. So as an educator, a person who was my PhD is in curriculum and leadership, I came up with an idea in the middle of the night of how to help the Rwandan government. And you're saying to yourself, why is this guy here and why is he with Miss Adamson? Well, I happened to conceive the idea of pairing the very best of Connecticut educators with and as instructors in Rwanda. And I pitched this first to President Kagame, the President of the Republic of Rwanda. Then I pitched it to the ministers in the Ministry of Education in Rwanda. They were skeptical at first, but they allowed me the chance to have both the funding and the data-driven decision-making to do this program. Well, from the very beginning, we saw tremendous increases in their knowledge, in the teachers' abilities, in the understanding and the conceptual understandings of what it takes to be a good teacher, and also how to bring around the Rwandan education system to a more modern system that's student-based rather than I stand here and I lecture and I just tell you about everything and hope you learn. Well, when I decided to make this jump from public education into the university, I needed to find the very best. So I went, even though I am working at the University of Hartford full-time, I went a couple of days a week both to lecture at schools. I lectured in Manchester, East Hartford. Many of the private schools asked me to come in, and then Wethersfield did on the matter of genocide. Then I said, well, I'm going to come back and sub. Let me see if I can find a good cadre of teachers this way. Well, I'm not going to bore you with all the schools I went to and how many things I didn't find. But I will tell you, as the elected representatives of this beautiful town, that I found more talent, more excellence, more superb understanding of what students know in this school system than I have in any of the school systems that I went to. So as a result of that, I privately spoke to Mr. Moore, the principal, and I also spoke to Superintendent Emmett, and I said, look, this is what I'm doing. I'm not here to steal anybody, but I want to borrow them. And I want to have what I see as the very best in American education come to Rwanda. I'll pay them, I'll make the flight possible, I'll get them the visas, but this will be a chance for people to do something that's so outside the box, but bring it back to show that Wethersfield, Manchester, Willimantic, West Hartford is not just a microcosm, it's the beginning of the world. And so what I found is at least 15 to 20 teachers, if not more, in Wethersfield that were so superb that I asked them privately. Some could go, some couldn't go. And I happened to be in for Miss Adamson one day, just looking at what she did and how much her ability to plan, her understanding of where students are going to be, where they want to be, understanding the curriculum and how to be an excellent teacher. And I invited her and I invited some other ones to please come to Rwanda with me, repeatedly, to teach and try to correct one of the world's biggest travesties. I can't change the Holocaust, I wished I could. But I can help a generation, we can help a generation rebuild from genocide. And what, from the meager beginnings of 40 Rwandan educators that came to the University of Hartford, paid for by the Rwandan government, to now our third trip of first 150, then 250, now almost 300. We're affecting change of over 20,000 students in Rwanda and almost 1,000 teachers already. Now, President Kagame, in his wisdom, offered the university a 10-year contract, and President Harrison has accepted that contract. But I thought it important when Mr. Moore and Mr. Emmett said that this was going to happen. I said, you know, this would be a great opportunity to tell you how excellent this is, how wonderful your teachers are, how superb the building is, and how amazing your students are. Because I get overwhelmed when I see such excellence, and I wanted to share it with you. That's all.
So I was the first one that said yes out of the people that he asked. And, you know, like I said, they brought, in the summer of, I think 2013, they brought 40 teachers from Rwanda here, had them for 3 weeks, took them to New York City, took them to Boston. Their favorite part of that whole trip was the duck boat tour. But they worked with them there, and then I guess it becomes probably a lot more cost efficient to bring teachers over to Rwanda instead of bringing all these Rwandan teachers here. So basically there's three kind of teams. The team that I'm on is with a teacher from the Metropolitan Learning Center, Wendy Nelson Kaufman, who is a former state teacher of the year. We came up with a manual for education methodologies. The other team is ELL, and honestly I can't keep track of all of the names for ELL. I think the last time we were there in December it was ELA, I think, English Language Acquisition or something, I don't know, but anyway, English Language Learners. So 2 teachers would help the teachers teaching their students how to learn English, because they've decided that business is going to be done in English and all education is going to be done in English, which is fine, but that's like telling me our language now is Spanish, and you can say that all day long, but I don't know Spanish. So they're not only trying to teach their teachers English, they're trying to teach all their subjects in English. So they have the English language learners. And then the last team is a husband and wife team. He teaches at University of Hartford, he's a professor. She is principal of the Watkinson Middle School, and she teaches science, and they do a program called HIP, Help Increase the Peace Program. It's a conflict resolution piece. And so we come in teams, and we've all created a manual that we use. The manual that we created basically has maybe, I think, 6 parts to it. We first start to talk about creating a classroom environment and how important it is to not only get to know your students, but let your students know who you are. The second, then we get into like a little bit of curriculum, and yes, when I first spoke to Mr. Emmett, I said, I have to admit, I brought in UBD, and that's part of, in that book, there is parts of UBD that have made it in as what we teach them, how they have to kind of work backwards from what they want to teach, and then go and figure out how you're going to go and do that. So we brought in UBD. We brought in, objective writing, Bloom's taxonomy, then instructional strategies. We have an emphasis on student-centered learning instead of teacher-centered learning. Assessment piece, formative assessment. I would say if we brought in any one of these Rwandan teachers that we had trained, and you said, what's the difference between formative and summative assessments? They could tell you like that. So we brought in the assessment piece. And then we finally do a little bit about teacher reflection, and how at the end of every lesson, you got to sit and think about what went well, what didn't go well, what would I change the next time. And the last part was more about how they are now expected to be the leaders in their school and help to train the other teachers in some of these methods that we had brought to them. So for me, it was interesting to, when you have to teach something, it's the best that you ever will know it. So as I'm teaching all of these methods, I'm sitting here going, student-centered learning. Maybe I should not talk so much in class, and maybe I should, create more activities for them. So it gives me a chance to kind of reflect on my own, the science of my own teaching. Other things that of course I can bring back to the classroom. This last time that we were there, kind of a historic event. They were voting to change their constitution. Their president had served 2 7-year terms, and they had overwhelmingly decided that they would like to change their constitution to allow him to run and be president for a little bit longer. And it was interesting being over in Rwanda and being American and kind of paying attention to what people in the United States were thinking about this. So I can bring those things back to the classroom with me. And it's just been a pleasure to be able to say that I'm from Wethersfield. And everywhere we go, we meet. I think the first night we were there in August, we met a professor from Yale. This last time, and I think so, whoever's on the BL high school that I sent out all my emails to, they were having a dialogue or something, and there was every kind of Rwandan ambassador. And we would just be talking to people, and we're like, so what do you do? And she goes, oh, I'm a diplomat. And we're like, well, really? She goes, yeah, I'm the ambassador to Japan. And we're like, oh. She goes, one of my closest friends, you may know her, Caroline Kennedy. And we're like, yeah, we kind of know her. So, you get to meet people, expand your own horizons personally. But what I can bring back to the classroom as well has been, I've told stories, just kind of a whole bunch of different little stories, from being this far away from a gorilla in the mountains, to just kind of the cultural differences that I see between Rwanda and America. And I said to the kids that it's interesting how we display affection. And the first time that I saw 2 Rwandan teachers, men, walking hand in hand. And I'm just like, we would just never see that here. But yet over there, that's what they do. They walk hand in hand, and, so just those kind of little cultural things I bring back to the classroom and and talk with the kids. So it's, you know, it's great for me personally. It's been wonderful for me professionally to really analyze how I go about teaching in my classroom. And just the 2 times that I've been in August and then this December, just to see how the teachers that started, the Rwandan teachers that had started here, they keep coming back to all these trainings and they're now the mentors. And to see how they've grown as leaders and how they are taking on responsibility. And in a few years, what we really want to do is say, all right, you're going to be teaching this stuff now. Now you've gone through this training with us. You know what we're expecting. And so eventually we would like to run ourselves out of Rwanda and allow them to teach each other the educational methodologies that we use. So that was the program. So I don't know if there's any questions.
No, but Diane, what a
Yeah.
wonderful representative you are for Wethersfield. I thank you. What an adventure.
Well, you know, this is my favorite story that I tell the kids, that I say that, you know, you have anxiety about you're going to a new place, and you know, and we all do. You guys, I have all seniors, you're going to college, and it's new and whatever. So I was telling them that, you know, I thought about things like, all right, something could happen to the plane, you know, terrorism, you're always worried a little bit about terrorism, and then you're worried about what can I catch over there. I had all kinds of shots, and what if I eat the wrong thing or whatever. So one night, 3:30 in the morning, we wake up and the bed's shaking and shaking. And I'm like, you know, you're kind of waking up trying to figure out. And it stops shaking and you're kind of like, man, I wonder what that was. And all of a sudden, shaking and shaking. I'm like, oh my God, this was an earthquake. So all I can do now, I'm lying in bed going, I never thought earthquake. I thought terrorism. The earthquake is what's going to get me. So I check earthquake off my bucket list because I've been in one. So, but anyway, I thank you for all the support. Mr. Moore and Mr. Emmett have been tremendously supportive of my efforts, and I plan to go back in August again.
Oh, wow.
For another couple weeks. It's just those peas, they grow on you very, very quickly, and it's like, as you're leaving, it's almost like they're 3 years old and they're holding on to your leg and they're saying, please don't. And they are saying, please don't go. We don't want you to go. Please stay. But I think that will change, and I see it changing because I see the confidence growing in the teachers that have been through this training a couple times with us now. So anyway, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Diane.
Oh.
Thank you.
And Doctor, thank you for your compliments, but we knew that. Teachers here are great.
I figured you did.
Thank you.
And as the program grows, because President Kagame has asked that we expand the program because of the level of success. And just to give you some data to think about, we did our first assessments of the teachers after this training. And it was independent. I did not want to get involved with it because I wanted to make sure it was clear. So when I showed the U.S. government or showed the World Bank, I wanted to be able to say this is the truth. And what we found is after 25 days of doing assessments, of walking into just like the old BEST program, coming in and seeing what teachers were doing, we found that 88.3% of the teachers had a marked increase in not only what they were doing in their class, but the test scores that they were getting from the Rwandan government. So people like Diane and I plan on inviting more people from the school system to come because it is so good. But thank you again for taking your time to listen to me, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
None this evening.
Okay. So the first business is the approval of the minutes of our previous meeting. Are there any corrections?
Yes, page 1, Katie Lamberti, it's actually Kate, no I.
I move acceptance.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You might need a second on that one.
second.
Somebody.
A second?
I seconded that.
There you
Okay. So all in favor?
go. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Minutes are approved. Okay. Is there anyone wishing to make a public comment? Please come to the podium and state your name and address. And may I remind you that public comments are limited to 5 minutes. No one tonight? Okay, we'll move on. Mr. Emmett, do you have any communication to share?
I do. Thank you, Mrs. Granado. Happy New Year, everyone. I have a few items this evening that I just want to share with everyone. Just want to let you know, as you know, this evening we've entered into that time of the year where the weather can impact the school day. I just want to remind parents that now is a good time to make sure that your contact information is up to date within School Messenger, so that we can ensure that you receive pertinent information regarding any delays, closings, or early dismissals. If you have any questions or you'd like to update your contact information, you can contact your child's school for assistance. Please note, when it comes to School Messenger messages in the morning, you will hear from me at about 5:45 a.m. I try and balance it between elementary and high school. What we try and do with regard to early dismissals, we try and make our decision on an early dismissal for inclement weather on or around 10 o'clock so we can get that message out to everybody. So I am hopeful and confident that we will have no snow days, we will have no delayed openings and no early dismissals. So I haven't had that yet, but we're hoping that this year is the first. So a couple of pieces with the high school. I'm very happy to announce that the 200 and 400 wings are open for learning at Wethersfield High School. The addition of these spaces is allowed for some improved traffic flow for students traversing the building. The next phase of the project has started, and there are a total of 28 classrooms that have gone offline, which are now being renovated. We got back 16, so we're a little tight right now. We have a lot of teachers that are sharing classrooms, so we're making the best of it. The work is also continuing on the auditorium at this point in time, and as of last night's building committee meeting, we are still hoping for a March opening of the auditorium. I also want to make a note as well. There was a news story last night on WFSB with regard to health concerns. We are very careful when it comes to any type of abatement, and I've been adamant since this project started that there is no asbestos or PCB abatement that goes on when kids are in the building. It is a construction zone. There's no two ways about it. We do deal with dust. We certainly deal with varying degrees of temperature change from cold to hot. When we find out that we have an issue related to any type of temperature problem, we immediately contact the contractor and we get the contractor involved in rectifying it. What we're dealing with right now, folks, is we've got new and then we've still got old. So the systems haven't quite meshed yet. Also, this morning, again, in another positive note, we had a power outage over at Wethersfield High School. I'm sad to report we had a wayward squirrel that was on a line on Westway and tripped the fuse. We now have generator power over at the high school, so we were able to maintain most power, so heat remained on along with all the other essential functions. So we were out from about 9:18 a.m. until about 9:55 when Eversource restored power, and then it was business as usual. So a couple of other items. Winter sports are now in full swing. Please visit our website for a schedule of athletic events. And I am also happy to report that the development of the 2016-2017 budget is now in progress. We have a series of budget workshops coming up later this month where we will discuss budget drivers, our district needs, initiatives, and potential savings. And also want to update everyone on the security upgrades. Over the course of the vacation, we've received all of our Raptor management systems. Mr. Even is rolling those out one a week on a weekly basis. In addition to that, our A-phone systems have arrived and are also in the process of being installed. In terms of next steps, we're looking at door installation at Emerson Williams. That's in the planning process now, along with the door replacement over at Charles Wright. And we'll be going before capital improvement to propose our board-approved capital improvement budget, which includes window film and additional security upgrades. So, and with that, that's the conclusion of communications.
Okay, thank you. So we're moving on to action items. Elaine, will you please read motion 6A?
Move that the Wethersfield Board of Education approve the online learning Ingenuity program. This has been proposed by WHS because they need an online learning course for credit recovery. Sometimes a student enters the school maybe in his senior, or her senior year and are lacking 1 or 2 credits for graduation. And this online Ingenuity program may give them the chance to catch up on their credits just because of the difference from school to school. So I recommend the motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
How many kids do we expect this is going to affect?
I think we've had openings for 10. Does that sound right? 10.
That's correct.
Do we anticipate it getting any larger than that, or is 10 enough or too many?
It has the potential to get larger, Mr. Morris. Right now, we want to start it and start it slow and make sure that we do it right. With these online learning opportunities, I want to be clear, it's not to replace the teacher. The interaction with the teacher is still critically important. So the Edgenuity program does contain that component where there's that ongoing interaction between teacher and student. So, this does have the potential of being a budget driver down the road in terms of needing staff, as we talked about at the Student Programs and Services Committee meeting. But we're looking to provide our students at the high school with varying opportunities. And the thing that's troubling is when you have that student who is, getting into the sophomore year and is some 3 or 4 credits behind and trying to get them caught up and on target and on track. So we do see it has the potential to expand.
What do we do for those kind of kids now?
Summer school.
Those are those kids that we might look for summer school. Those are those kids that we may find that need the extra year or the extra year and a half. We are, and I know Mr. Moore talked about this at Student Programs and Services, we focus very hard on not allowing our students to fall through the cracks. So we don't want to get to that point. Let's say, for example, with graduation, we don't want to get to a point where we've got a cadre of kids in like late May, early June that aren't graduating and we didn't know about it. There's ongoing conversations with guidance counselors, support staff, classroom teachers, and certainly involving the parent to ensure that the kids are doing what they need to do. But we do find that we have a group of students that may not really adhere to the typical traditional high school schedule and need something a little different. And this is an opportunity to expand upon that.
Any other discussion? Okay, we seconded, didn't we? Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Diane, could you please read motion 6B?
Move that the Wethersfield Board of Education approve the new course titled Capstone Project.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
For the board members who aren't not familiar with this, this is going to be a pilot project this spring for 11th and 12th graders. In a couple years, this is going to be a graduation requirement that the kids will have to do in 11th or 12th grade. Involves doing research, fieldwork experience. It's a very valuable program. A lot of schools in this area are already doing it. So we had encouraged the staff at our student services meeting to attempt to expedite this and get this up and running as soon as possible. And there are a number of different locations kids can do field work, do research on projects that they might be interested in their future careers.
And I understand the pilot starts soon, correct?
Within a couple weeks, I think.
Any other discussion?
Will this program take place during advisory period, or is there a separate block set out for the capstone, this course?
I think I'm not sure how the pilot is going to work, but it's going to be part of the curriculum at some point. So the kids that are piloting it, I'm sure they're going to have to work within their schedules that have already been established.
There would be like something you registered in course selection?
I believe that's how it's going to be handled, yes.
Peter, it's a mandated course for the class graduating in 2020. But for now, we're piloting it this January 20-something it starts.
Right.
And they're sort of like picking people to try it with Ms. Masunis. No.
Musinskis.
Musinskis. So it's not a mandate yet.
Thank you.
John?
Yeah, thank you. Just out of curiosity, does this have any budget implications?
It will,
Okay, so that,
in terms of staffing, yes.
in terms of staffing, so when we have our budget workshops, every time we discuss it, we've got to look at this as something that we have to move forward, correct?
Yes.
Okay, we all remember that?
Starting next week. Is this something that we're gonna anticipate every kid is gonna have to do? Is that what we're talking about? Is that town mandated or is that state mandated?
State mandate.
State mandate
In 2020,
for the
graduation.
graduating class of 2020.
Okay, and I guess I've read this right, it's basically an independent study program?
Yeah, it really focuses in on students' interests and, again, provides the student the opportunity to do research. It provides the student the opportunity to get out into the field and actually, study in the field. Gives the student, one of the actual issues that they will have to deal with is a presentation, presenting in front of a panel of people. And that in and of itself would prepare them for what they'll deal with when they go off into the real world, when they go off to college. And the idea here is to, it's not to pile an additional item on, but it's to help them grow for the future and help them pique an interest and expand upon that interest.
I gather our choice of selections is not limited to the 15 in the
No,
materials?
it is not at all.
I was surprised not to see computers in there.
That was brought
Yeah,
up
we-
at the Student Programs and Services
Right,
Committee.
we brought that up, that list needs to be expanded, because kids will take this literally, just.
This was just a suggestion.
Right.
Yes.
We had suggested research labs, scientific labs, engineering, government, and types of things. The kids that I have known that have done this in other school systems have done stuff with like a lab at UConn. Another kid was doing marine biology stuff with the DEEP's biology brain, those types of things.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? And the motion passes. So we are moving on to report and discussion items. Mr. Emmett, we have our first reading of our proposed 16-17 school year calendar.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Mrs. Granado. Before you this evening for the first read is our proposed draft calendar for the 2016-2017 school year. We have developed this calendar in keeping with the CREC calendar. This was done through a committee which consisted of teachers, administrators, members, obviously, of the WFT. So it is there for you to quote-unquote kick the tires. I will tell you just with a little bit of history. A couple years ago, we developed a calendar that kind of went around the construction project. And that did not yield us any of our pieces of building getting done on time. So we build the calendar based on what's best for us and what's best for learning, and don't worry about what the construction company is dealing. They're going to work around us. So again, pretty much a traditional calendar. We'd start before Labor Day this year, with the first day of school being August 31st. That is the one question I have gotten from some parents. What's the first day of school? We propose it as August 31st. Prior to that, obviously, new teacher orientation, professional development, and teacher workday. The other features, again, the February vacation would be a long vacation, as it has been for the past 3 years. So we would run a full-day professional development day on Friday, February 17th, and then, so students would not be in on that day, staff would. And then on Monday, President's Day, and Tuesday, what's known as winter recess, the 20th and 21st of February, respectively. The April vacation is a traditional April vacation, and that would take place the week of April 10th. And then we're looking at, with no snow days, we're looking at the end of the 16-17 school year being Monday, June 12th.
And that's a long weekend in February, correct? Yes.
It is. So for students, it'd be a Friday, Monday, and Tuesday.
And
Go ahead, Diane.
are other towns in the Hartford area are basing it all off the correct calendar?
Yes. And what you'll find there is with the correct calendar, and Elaine, I know you were heavily involved in it when you were on the correct council as well. There is a little bit of leeway with regard to that, but we're following, for example, with the April vacation, there are going to be some districts that may go with the week of April 3rd. There may be a district or two that goes with the week of April 17th. One of the things that the committee looked at this year is it kind of encompasses the Good Friday. So, we tried to maximize it. Now, again, you're not going to be able to match it with every single calendar, but we do the best that we can.
Any other discussion?
I would invite, if you have any comments, please look this over. If you have any comments or input, please provide it. We can bring it back to the committee. Again, in keeping with the correct calendar, this is, pretty much the model that everybody's using. I would also suggest, now that we're getting to the conclusion, closer to the conclusion of our construction project, perhaps bringing the calendar committee together again in the spring to begin the process of doing the 17-18 calendar and getting that in place in advance, ahead of time, to give parents more opportunity to plan. Yes?
So if the last day of school is June 12th,
Yes.
and that's a half day, and we don't have any snow days, would you have the last day of school be June 9th as opposed to opening up a half day?
No, I do the half day.
Okay.
We do the half day.
Diane?
Is this proposed calendar going to be put on the website as a proposal?
We can put it up.
Because I know a lot of people were
We
interested
do get a lot
in
of
it.
questions.
A lot of questions
Yeah, we have
about
as
it.
well. Yeah, we'll happy to post that.
Just to give a little, I served on this CREC calendar committee, and all the surrounding districts were there. And I learned a lot, I have to tell you, because you don't realize how different towns are. For West Hartford, there's 5 flex days that the correct calendar allows you to pick. And West Hartford has to use all theirs for, between Jewish holidays and another religious group, that they have, all 5 are used up. They have no flexibility because they're used for those 3 Kings Day, whatever, already. And their superintendent came to these meetings, and he was a little, he didn't think he had any flexibility. But that's his district, we have a little more flexibility. Besides the idea of everybody having close calendar, if your child, and I'll just use Discovery because it's right in our town, if your child went to Discovery, you'd have a different vacation than Wethersfield. So some moms were having to take 2 weeks off because one kid was in Discovery and one was at Wethersfield High, let's just say. So that was another reason for this calendar, trying as best we could to get uniform. I'm just sharing a little background there, so.
Why is January 2nd listed as New Year's Day? I didn't think we moved it.
When it's celebrated, that's when the state celebrates it.
On January 2nd?
Because it falls on a Sunday.
Sunday.
Falls on a Sunday, so the holiday is celebrated.
On a Monday.
I thought the holiday was December 31st.
No?
That's when yours is.
That's definitely what mine is.
Okay, any further discussion? Thank you. Tonight, we have a presentation from the Wethersfield Early Childhood Collaborative. Thank you.
Coming down.
Need the screen.
Oh, yeah.
This is cool.
I got my magnifying glass. Big one. The computer helps.
We
me,
tested
just
the
make
other
it
day.
bigger.
It works better.
Good.
Your bulb on that side isn't as good as. Yeah, okay, that's great. Thank
That's
you.
good.
Good evening. Thank you for having us. My name is Kim Bobbin, and I am the program coordinator for the Wethersfield Early Childhood Collaborative.
I'm Martha Keneally. I'm the accountability coordinator for WEC, which means I track and analyze data related to young children in Wethersfield using the principles of results-based accountability.
We are here tonight to talk to you about investing in early childhood. We have a brief presentation, and we'll have time for questions at the end. The Wethersfield Early Childhood Collaborative, or WEC, is a diverse group of community members and local organizations. WEC connects advocates, parents, programs, and services for young children. Data drives our work. Our objective is to identify areas of focus and get everyone working towards the mutual goal of making children in Wethersfield better off. We track issues and engage partners to take action. WEC is part of a 10-year initiative called the Discovery Initiative. The purpose of the Discovery Initiative was to help towns in Connecticut develop local early childhood infrastructures. Martha will tell you a little bit more about this. WEC has been funded by the Graustein Memorial Fund, the state of Connecticut, and the town of Wethersfield. We are here tonight because this 10-year initiative is sunsetting, and we would like to begin a community conversation about next steps for early childhood in Wethersfield. In the past, the town and the Board of Education have each contributed $2,500 annually to WEC. We are looking for the town and the board to increase their investment. So why invest in WEC? This is a time when we are all being asked to do more with less, and the needs of our families are becoming greater. Our collaborative feels it is a worthwhile investment because of what we have in place already and the positive impact our future work will have on our community. Let me begin with the fact that WEC has created an engaged network of community partners. We have strong partners right here in this room, and we are most proud of our parents. Our co-chair, Mary Kay Jensen, is here. She's an early childhood educator and mother to 2 small children in Wethersfield. We have Robin Otis, who is a parent, who's been with us for many years. Matt Forrest, parent and board liaison to WEC. Assistant Superintendent Sally DeStoli serves on our steering committee and has given us countless hours of her time. Superintendent Mike Emmett has been a great supporter, and our newest WEC member is Bobby Granato. Our network extends throughout our community and also the state. Our biggest success has been bringing these partners together to talk about issues and take action. Oh, I have to go back to a partner. I miss Janet Vassell. Janet is a member of WEC's newest parent organization, Madres Latinas. Our biggest success has been bringing these partners together to talk about issues and take action. Before the collaborative, each of these groups operated in silos. WEC has succeeded in engaging these partners to work together so that the collective impact of our work is greater. Our partners understand the needs of our families, support the work, and are ready to continue to work collaboratively.
As a collaborative, we use data to sharpen the focus of our work. Most board members attended our annual meeting where we took an in-depth look at our data, and members of the public have seen our community plan. We've spent the last year visiting PTOs and community organizations spreading the word, so we're not going to go in depth on the data picture tonight, but for those of you in the audience who haven't seen our numbers yet, we wanted to take a quick look. Investigating local data has highlighted areas of need in our community. For instance, we've learned about issues with health. For example, data shows that almost 30% of moms in Wethersfield are not receiving adequate prenatal care. This is above state average and out of step with our neighbors. In terms of school readiness, we've seen a concerning decline in preschool preparation. What's very helpful is that the data allows us to look at our community as a whole or to disaggregate the numbers and look at specific groups. So by example, we're going to take a look at an at-risk population group by taking a peek at the numbers of children who qualify for free and reduced price lunch. This is an indicator we connect to both health and school readiness. First, let's look at our community as a whole. The red line here represents the state of Connecticut, and the blue line is the town of Wethersfield. While we remain below the state average, you can see the number of children receiving free and reduced lunch has doubled in the past 10 years. Now we're going to drill down into a specific neighborhood and look at a school, and we're going to, in this case, look at Webb Elementary School. When we drill down there, we can see a pocket of much greater need. In this case, the red line represents Wethersfield and the blue line represents Webb. As you can see, there's a more dramatic turn of the curve for Webb. In the same 10-year period, 3 times as many children are receiving free and reduced price lunch. So what's the vision for how our community can meet these challenges? We believe we need to develop our early childhood infrastructure. Typically, when we think of a town's infrastructure, we think of roads, sidewalks, and buildings. When it comes to early childhood infrastructure, we're talking about making deliberate choices to create and support a coordinated and strategic system that expands Wethersfield's capacity to meet the needs of young children and their families. We envision an infrastructure that will include physical plants, such as a family resource center, an effort to support and expand high-quality early care and preschool slots, a coordinated effort to address the health and well-being of very young children through programs such as home visitation and parenting programs, and a plan to engage the families of young children and connect them to our community. We know there is a need. A focused effort to build our infrastructure will allow us to be proactive in meeting that need. Is it worth it, though, for our community? This is a big question that, of course, we have to ask. Now, time and time again, research has shown that early interventions pay off. So we know that investing in early childhood is going to help our children's health. It's going to help them get ready for school, and it's going to strengthen their families and connect them to our community. So I think we can all see the direct benefit to the child and the family. But let's look past that immediate impact to the wider community and the more pragmatic point of view of why we believe investment in early education will benefit all Wethersfield taxpayers. We'll start by looking at the issue from the point of view of economic development. Whether we're talking about businesses looking to set up shop in Wethersfield or families considering the purchase of a home here, the state of our local early care system should be both a strong selling point for our community and a source of economic growth. High-quality early care permits parents to hold jobs, work longer hours, and even enhances their productivity because they have that knowledge that their children are in good hands while they're at work. In terms of businesses, it is good for business because it leads to reduction in employee absenteeism and turnover, which increases workers' output. Finally, early care and early education is an important economic sector, generating jobs and demands for goods and services. Last year, this industry generated revenue of $41.5 billion and employed 873,000 individuals. The spillover impact of these programs through the purchase of goods and services generated an additional $42 billion for local economies. Secondly, research shows that this is an investment that will pay off for our community. As the board is well aware, a typical education in Wethersfield costs about $14,000 per child annually, while the education of a child requiring interventions can cost many times that amount. Is there a way to avert some of these costs? To answer that question, we look to the research of Nobel Prize-winning economist James Heckman and what's known as the Heckman equation. Heckman's extensive research in this area has influenced federal and state legislation with support coming from both sides of the aisle. The basic idea is that the earlier we invest in our children, the greater the long-term savings. A conservative estimate is that $1 invested in early care saves $7 in the long run, but we have heard upwards of $20 of long-term savings for each dollar invested, and that cost would be broadly shared and benefit the entire community. Finally, developing our early childhood infrastructure will put us in the right position to take advantage of external community investment. As part of our work, our collaborative tracks public and private funding opportunities related to the expansion of Connecticut's early childhood system and advocates for Wethersfield to be included in those programs. The message we've gotten for our community from both public and private funders is that infrastructure attracts external investment. A local commitment to being partners in early childhood investment will help to steer resources and funding our way. Throughout the state, we see communities that have built some form of local infrastructure that are benefiting from the financial support of state and philanthropic organizations. We're showing examples of just a few of the communities where this has played out, but I'm going to use West Hartford as an example. It's larger than our community, but we're both inner ring suburbs, and we've seen a shift in our community demographics over the past 10 to 20 years and have similar patterns of need. In the case of West Hartford, I think it's fair to say they have been more proactive in setting up a system to meet this need. West Hartford schools have staff devoted to early childhood that include an early childhood curriculum specialist. They've invested in a family resource center, have home visitation programs in place, offer school-based NIAC accredited preschool programs, parent leadership programs, and much more. It's a comprehensive system that obviously took years to create, but their local investment has paid off and allowed them to take advantage of state and philanthropic funding to expand and enrich those programs. Without that infrastructure in place here in Wethersfield, we're leaving money on the table. But as I said, local investment is the key. Public and private funders want to see local commitment before they're willing to bring in their resources.
So what's next? WEC is interested in working with the Board of Education, the town, and the community to collectively work on developing an early childhood infrastructure. The collaborative is working on a proposal to bring to the town and the board regarding ways we can develop this infrastructure. We look forward to beginning this discussion with you. At this time, we are happy to take any questions.
John?
Thank you. Great program, and thank you for the information. Are you going to do this with the town council? Are you going to present them?
We'd love to if they'd like to have us. Yeah.
I think this would be very key for them to see as well. You know, you work in collaboration, but without town funding, the Board of Ed, you know, that's how they're develop their budget. So I think if they see it and you know, I think if you read it and look at it, it's worth the presentation to them.
And
I think a
would
great
ju-
suggestion.
I would just say that I think that we view this as the benefit, not only as a school benefit, but as a benefit in terms of social and youth services. So we see this as a shared service.
Yeah, I think the key elements of economic development and moving the, you know, I just think that it brings a whole nother level of appreciation for early childhood education.
Okay, now the noise is gone. Anyone else? Diane?
What is the early childhood collaborative, what is your involvement with the Office of Early Childhood?
So it's interesting that you say that because they're one of our partners. So they were at our meeting on Monday. And so, for example, when we found out that 30% of women in Wethersfield were not receiving adequate prenatal care, we called the Office of Early Childhood. And one of the things that we found out was that there was funding available through a federal program for home visitation. After some further research, we found out that Wethersfield had missed out on what was a $10 million funding opportunity because $10 million statewide funding opportunity. We had missed out because no one was really aware that prenatal was an issue in Wethersfield. So we take the data and we show it to people in Wethersfield, but we also bring it to people at the state. So when we brought it to the Office of Early Childhood, they said, "Oh my God, we missed you, we're so sorry." And they brought us another program called Nurturing Families, which is a free program. It's free to parents, it's free to families, and it's really to stop the cycle of poverty. So we have started through Social and Youth Services making referrals for moms. So if we find a mom that's pregnant and she's in need, we can refer her to this free program where they will come in and work with the family for 5 years for free. So they are our partner.
But I think it's also, the Office of Early Childhood is also a funding partner for our collaborative as well, and has been a funding partner, but that is part of the funding that is sunsetting.
Do you are part of any organizations that are part of the cabinet for the Office of Early Childhood?
No.
Are some of the regional collaboratives, do they have a seat at that table, or?
Well, I
Does
mean,
WEC? No.
not WEC, but I mean, we're, the Discovery Communities, the Discovery Initiative is, I mean, it's 40 communities throughout, and that is something that the Office of Early Childhood has been heavily involved with throughout, so.
Good.
Actually, the Discovery Initiative helped to build the Office of Early Childhood.
When is the sunset?
So the funding ends in June of 2016. And what we've been told by Graustein was that this was always the plan. So the plan was always to train communities and get them up and running, similar to what they were saying about Rwanda. You know, we're going to tell you how to do this, but you guys have to do it yourself. It's all about building the infrastructure within the town.
And what kind of funding will we need to be worried about?
So we're going to be coming to you with a proposal before the end of the month, and it's going to be for a position, but we'd like to work with the town and the board on that proposal.
Okay, sooner would be better, too. Because the budget is going into,
Yes.
we're going into workshops. Anyone else?
Just briefly, I suppose this is sort of my liaison committee, and just to give the board kind of a heads up about where I think this is heading, there's two basic pieces. The infrastructure, I think, that we're talking about to hear with the presentation is probably more of a position or half a position that may be shared, and it's essentially the continuation of this work in a community effort in order to do exactly what we've just been seeing, but to continue it. And it's also most likely going to be a comprehensive and collaborative individual who's able to talk to a lot of the different segments of our community to make sure that the children's education, especially at the early childhood level, is being attended to, especially if there's language barriers and cultural barriers and and those various things. But it really is also for the entire community. And I think that there was a touch there also about the dollars and about how we want to position Wethersfield, or there's a discussion about positioning Wethersfield into the best possible way to get that funding, whether it's federal, state, or private. And that we can recognize that maybe there's something better that we can do. So I think that the proposal that's going to come forward will not just touch one possible aspect, but many aspects of things that we have all had conversations for years about, possibly things that we can do better. Secondarily, I presented some of these concepts to not only the board chair, but also had a meeting with Senator Murphy's office about expanding our early childhood infrastructure, but which is basically also expanding the time in which you could send your child to early childhood, more than just half day, especially for working parents, expanding the ages and expanding the seats and the opportunities. All that I would expect over the next 30 to 45 days or 60 days that will be presented as options for us to explore when it comes to funding. So I think that both of these concepts are going to come in. They're really under the whole umbrella of early childhood, but that's kind of, I think, generally what we're talking about. So I want to give everyone a heads up to start thinking about that. You'll certainly see promotion from at least this seat. I think there may be other seats, but that's something that will be coming, and then I think that as a board, we'll have to consider what kind of priorities, and of course, discussion with town council. I think Councilor Casio, Board Member Casio, brought up an excellent point that this is a conversation I think we should be having early and often with the town council, since it may be a strategic part of where we want to go as a board, and of course, the partnership with them. And I would encourage WEC and anything I can do to support WEC in making sure that not only that presentation happens, but behind the scenes discussions with the various counselors to show its importance, not just as an infrastructure for you to continue the work, but also, okay, let's continue solving this problem, and or putting resources toward it.
Thank you. And I think one of the points that has to be made, and I saw it as a teacher in the system, especially the last few years, is the families are changing, and they do need help. And the school system is there for them. You're there for them. It is the safety net we so need, because these children go into the schools. We have them. We know what we're working with. So I thank you for your work already, and I am a big supporter of it going forward.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on to Board of Ed meetings that have been held. The School Projects Building Committee, do you want to comment, or you want Mr. Emmett? Mr. Emmett, would you comment on our
Certainly.
building committees?
We had two recent meetings. I will tell you that I was unable to attend the meeting on the 4th of January. That was a special meeting. The area of focus for that agenda was the discussion of a change order specific to a contractor. Our most recent regularly scheduled meeting occurred last evening at the Stillman Building. There, we discussed owner's expenditures, also approval of contractor requisitions, proposed change orders, and then we had discussion around the auditorium. We had discussion around technology, and we'll be getting from O&G an update on the technology and the furniture, fixtures, and equipment budgets to see where we're at with regard to that. Also, there was discussion last night of the contingency. The number we were told by O&G last evening was approximately $650,000 left in contingency. In terms of the completion date of this project, as I'm saying at this point in time, we're talking late this year. Originally, it was September of 2016. I'm going to be very upfront. I don't think it's going to end by that time. I think it's going to go on, unfortunately. But you know, we seem to have a handle on things in terms of the finances. Can also report that on the 23rd of December, I received from Mr. O'Neill from the town request to sign off on the ED 046, which is the request from the state of Connecticut for reimbursement. I signed off on that, so we should be getting additional reimbursement coming up from the state.
Diane?
Regarding the auditorium, are the seats on order?
The seats are on order. There was extensive discussion about that last evening. As you can recall, when you were on the building committee, there was a lot of discussion about the seats and what fabric, how we were going to order them, when we were going to order them. We were told last evening that the seats had been ordered. One of the things that they're working on now is there was a situation around the ADA seating and making sure that we have seats that meet ADA requirements for students that may be in wheelchairs or adults that may be in wheelchairs, so we seem to be on the right track with that. The other aspect of the auditorium we talked about last night was there is a backing behind the wood accents, and there was some discussion as to whether or not that was a foam, and there was talk about maybe putting something behind those wood slats. As it turns out, the backing material is in fact hard. It's not a foam, so that's an expense we don't have to incur. But again, in terms of events being scheduled in the auditorium, I would proceed with extreme caution. I've already heard about the festival. There was an inquiry about having the festival, which is early April? Late April. I don't want to commit to that at this point in time, just because I don't want to plan it out only to find out that we're not in there yet. They are working on it, and they've been told very clearly by the building committee that this needs to get done. They've had this since December of 2015, so we're already over a year at this point in time. So, but it is looking good, and I do invite members of the public, go onto our website. Our most recent submission of pictures that Keith put up date right through the 30th of December. So there is progress.
So getting back to the seats, they're ordered. Do we have
Yes.
an anticipated delivery date?
We were told last evening about 8 to 10 weeks.
So that,
They were ordered, from what we were told last evening by the architect, they were ordered in early December, and they were released last week, beginning of last week.
Mr. Emmett, do you think
Yes.
this project will be finished in the year 2016 though? If you have to make a good guess, I know September's not likely, but.
I'm honestly hoping for December of 2016
That's good enough
for a finish. I mean, we know again that we're going to have a full summer of being offline. And you know, this whole project, and I can't say enough, and even today being over there, I was over there twice today dealing with the power issue. I can't say enough for the flexibility of the students and the staff. I mean, everybody rolls with it, and every day there's always something that's going on, and it's oftentimes something that's out of our control. In spite of that, you know, you go into the cafeteria today, and I mean, it's a dynamic place. It's quiet. It's a nice social atmosphere from what I've observed. So, you know, I look at it from the perspective of right now we're about 80% finished overall. That was the latest number. But you think about it, we broke ground on, I think it was September 16th or 19th of 2014. This has been an unbelievable project from a financial standpoint, the impact that we've had in terms of programs, and in spite of it, we're marching on. We've gotten some great spaces back, media center, music spaces are great, our gym is fantastic, and again, our science labs are fantastic. So we're making progress, but I will tell you, it has been a major undertaking, and one that has impacted all of us over the course of the past couple years.
And the suggestion was made that we have an open house when it's finally done, and a party that goes along with it, because it really has been an undertaking. It has been.
A ribbon cutting of epic proportions, in my opinion.
Can we move on to student program and services? Diane, you have your report?
Yes, we met last Thursday evening. We reviewed the plans for the high school and for the middle school, and had some suggestions and comments, as well as looking at the capstone project that you saw tonight and the new online courses. Basically, we're going to come back together and still look at some of these issues, but the committee voiced their concern about how some of the data is being measured specifically at the middle school, and I think we're gonna want to dig deeper into that, because we want to be able to show that there's growth there and there's progress there. So I think that's going to be a continuing discussion that we'll need to have.
Okay.
I think we had a lot of discussion about the capstone project and some of the things that were going on at the high school.
Okay. We have two of us who are at the WEC meeting. I have some comments, but Matthew, do you have comments?
Well, most of them we've just heard. The only other additional large discussion was revolving around possibility of some type of a grant writer position and about trying to capture those dollars for the school. But I think most of it's been said, so we're not going to regurgitate it.
I did enjoy hearing the Nurturing Families Network, and they gave a presentation to the committee that opened my eyes again. The committee also reported they're preparing for their community baby shower. That's very interesting. This is an event organized for expecting families by WEC, and it provides them with info and organizations that are available to assist them. And of course, my ears are wide open and my eyes are wide open on the discussions about the monies that are available when you have your infrastructure and everything already. So it's always an interesting meeting. And meetings scheduled. If there's no discussion on our meetings held, meetings scheduled, we have our Finance and Informational Management Committee on January 13th at 6 o'clock. Professional Development Special Advisory Committee is also on January 13th at 7:30. Policy and Planning Committee, I do believe that has been changed, and it's the following week.
Yes, that's, Madam Chair, the Policy and Planning Committee meeting has been canceled so that the Finance Subcommittee can meet with the town concerning a review of audit information, so.
Okay, so
Just
that's on the
scheduled at the same
14th,
time.
okay.
So, just to clarify, so those of us who are on the Budget Committee
Yes,
will be going to that meeting instead on
yes,
Thursday?
correct.
Okay.
Okay.
That's at 6 o'clock?
It's correct, 6 o'clock here. and-
Here?
Yep.
Okay.
Student Program and Services Committee meets again on January 19th. CREC Council is on January 20th. A special Board of Ed meeting, which is our retreat, is on January 20th. And the School Projects Building Committee meets on January 25th. Okay. Is there any unfinished business? Okay, so then we will move on to our public comments. Is there anyone wishing to make a public comment? Again, please come to the podium and state your name and address. And may I remind you that public comments are limited to 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Are there any board comments? John?
Janet, go ahead, I'll defer to you.
Thank you. Just to touch upon the actual grand opening of the high school, I think it would be nice to not only have our band present and dance team,
She's
cheerleaders,
planning.
all of them, but I think it's also important to send a special invitation to all the media for those that have covered our school, good, bad, or indifferent. It would be great to have them there to show them just how excellent it looks and how healthy our children are.
Absolutely.
Okay, John?
Yeah, I just want to follow up on the presentation from Kim and Martha. I think it is so important that you do reach out to the town. All right, they are part of the link of what you're trying to do here. Plus the social services department and all the, even with the Parks and Rec, all those departments down in that lower basement area are key to what we're doing. So I think once that word gets out, and I think the way you presented it tonight was very telling on the infrastructure. It's just not roads. You know, it's the future of the community. So I think that really, if they are listening, it'll be very telling. That's the first thing. The other comment is facilities and maintenance, I believe we have a date of February 3rd. We'll be meeting, and the time, I believe, will be 6 p.m. at the Stillman Building, and we'll get a definite agenda sent out. I also did reach out to the town regarding the Memorial Day Parade Committee schedule, and I have not received anything, just so that you're all wondering when. We all know when the parade is going to be, but I just didn't. You know, we don't know when the committee dates are at this point, so I just wanted people to be aware of that. I also did want to just get some points of clarification, and I did want to thank the committee for sending the objective out for the Special Advisory Professional Development Committee. I was not present at the 24th of November, but I did have some concerns regarding the objective. An ad hoc committee, in my mind, is charged with a particular concern and purpose. It's considered an investigating committee, which I see what we're doing here, and I understand that. It's formed for an immediate problem and it's short term. There's a beginning and an end, and it's disbanded upon completion. The question I have is the objective that was presented in our board packet, does that need to be approved by the board? Because we're not part of the committee, but yet the objective states things that are not within our purview as board members. We are not involved with personnel as a board. The only personnel we're involved with is the superintendent. So I do have concerns, especially when we're in the objective, we're talking about staff members. We don't do that. The other thing is the effect on substitutes. The Wethersfield Board of Education does not control substitutes. Kelly Services controls substitutes. The only time the board gets involved with substitute hiring is for long term, and that's through the HR division. So I just think we need to relook at what we're doing here. And I just think that, you know, we just really need to be aware of what our role is as a board. And I know the cause is good and what you're doing is good, but I just think that we have to be concerned about the objective. I think there has to be an actual, in my mind, when I served on an ad hoc committee, a purpose and a solution. The agendas are the same from the early December meeting until the meeting that you're having tonight. They're identical. The only thing that's changed is the date. So I just think that there's got to be more movement. There's got to be actual, in my mind, you know, something that has some identity. If we're going to look at it and not being a member of the committee, I would hope that the ad hoc committee is looking at other communities. I didn't see that in the minutes at all, and how they have release time, early dismissals, how Newington is doing it, how other towns are. I didn't get that from the first meeting in the minutes, nor any report. So I just think that at your meeting tomorrow, other than call to order, introductions, discussion of PD and adjournment, doesn't give me as a board member comfort as to what is being discussed. I just want to know a little bit more if you're going to be looking at Newington's structure, if you're going to be looking at other towns, if you're going to be, initiate what's being initiated. So, have you reached out to administration for their input, since they're going to implement it? We don't implement professional development. The administration implements professional development. Okay, so I guess as a board member, I just need to know what future discussions are going to be, what solutions, and what's your timeline. What is the timeline of this committee? Is it going to be a year? Is it going to be another 2 more meetings? I just think that we all need to be aware of that.
John, I agree with you. I didn't get anything more than the objective. But in the objective, I see that they're going to look at the effect on substitutes and staffing. And I'm sure that piece is going to be discussed more detail when they're appropriate to come to the administration. They're working out the kinks, I think, in a small committee. However, we did research, I'm not on the committee, but I did research on what other towns are using for substitutes, because the teachers aren't happy with who they're getting for substitutes. And so other towns, what they're using is called ASOP. And Mr. Emmett and I had a discussion on that. But I think that would be included in further notes when the committee gives you more detailed notes on this. I think the motivation behind forming this ad hoc committee, John, is the cry from the public that said, and the teachers, that we don't want to be out of our classrooms that much, and the parents didn't want that many times out of the classrooms. So I don't think it's anything new. Maybe you and I didn't hear it on the trail because we weren't out there this time, but apparently from all of these people, there was a cry that teachers are out of their classrooms too much. And so but I think the committee is looking at ways to keep the teachers in the classrooms. But again, I think it's going to be something we still have to get ironed out. I don't think you're missing anything yet, any other board members missing, because I'm not any more than you are informed, so don't feel like that.
I just wanted to bring that to the table because we are part of this objective. And so we all have to agree to it.
Yes.
So I just didn't know if that's something that we, as a board, need to adopt, because I truly am not comfortable the way it's written right now, because this is not in our scope. I understand what you're trying to accomplish, but the way this is written is not in the scope of our charge as a board member.
Okay. Diane?
I know, I'm on this ad hoc committee, and I don't see it as in the same manner that you do. We're not getting into staffing, individual staff situations, staffing, we're not getting into the weeds as far as staffing is concerned. And to be honest with you, I would not be party to that also, because I don't think that is a role. But we are a policymaking board. We are elected by the citizens of this town to represent them. I heard ad nauseum about the issue that Elaine brought up, and I think all of us did. And I didn't hear it just from citizens, I also heard it from teachers who are also citizens in this town. student, I mean, there are a lot of concerns, and I think that what this committee is doing, and we've only had one meeting, and to accomplish all the things that you mentioned is going to take months. We only had a preliminary meeting, and I would envision tomorrow's meeting as developing a plan, and maybe Matt or Bobby or somebody can interject a plan as to what data needs to be collected, what we need to look at, those types of things. But, you know, I mean, the citizens have asked us to look into this problem. And I think as a board, we have an obligation to do that. I think we're all cognizant of what our limitations are, but we're a policymaking board, we're a governing board. And this is within our purview to look at a situation that's been brought to our attention and to see through policy if changes are required. And that includes meeting with all the stakeholders. I mean, we had one meeting that was 2 or 3 hours long, and although Matt kept us on task like so we could accomplish things, I mean, it's not something that can be looked at overnight. As you mentioned, we have to seek out what other communities are doing. We have to look at other models. And, you know, the one thing that's been brought to my attention through this and through some of these other communities, being a new board member, is, you know, all I'm hearing about is data, data, data. Well, you know what? Data is fine as long as we're using it to make decisions and put stuff into play. There's no point in collecting data just for the sake of collecting data. And as a new board member, I got to dig deeper into those weeds, because I'm just seeing data being collected for the sense of collecting data. And before I make any decisions, I want to find out more information about that. And I think a majority of us would want to. But I don't see us as stepping out of our bounds with that. And I can honestly tell you, coming from my background, that I am overly cautious, especially when it comes into the role of human resources and personnel. And I will raise my hand if I see us leaning in that direction, which I don't think we are.
Janet?
I have to concur with Diane on the points that she brought up. I was one of those parents asking about these issues that were coming up, and this was before I even ran for, decided to run for Board of Ed. So really a lot of the discussion that we had, I felt amongst not only the teachers that were present, but the parents from the community and, other board members that were there with us, that have children in the system or have had children in the system. The other issue was that we didn't have students present, but a lot of the issues that were brought up and parents complaining about the issues and talking to us as we were campaigning, one of the issues that nobody really seemed to realize, the stress level that these children are going through. And that probably hit more to home while we were meeting than any of the other issues that we were discussing. That this ultimately needs to be resolved because the stress level that it's causing children starting at K through 12. So yes, we do have to fine tune quite a bit. And there was a lot of issues. I mean, we could have talked for hours, and Matt actually made a note and said, we're gonna parking lot this issue, and we need to stay on task as to what we wanna discuss and accomplish tonight. And there are issues that we are gonna readdress tomorrow at the meeting. So I think, unfortunately, this is so fresh and new that there's so many other little things that need to get brought. And yes, there are a lot of things you mentioned that we do need to address. However, I think it's just so new and fresh that we do need time. It's not gonna be done in 2 months. I don't even know how you would determine a timeline with the different issues involved.
I just wanted, we have a state requirement, is that correct? For professional development.
Right.
It's required by the state. So we already know what we have to do.
It's just hours.
It's ours. So we already know what the hours are. So the point being, from what I'm hearing in the conversation, is how do we as a district not remove teachers from a classroom for training?
Well, John, you have the 2
It's
days
called-
on the calendar. That could be enough time to meet the state requirement, and then no further pullout. Some towns just do the 2 that are on the calendar, and that's it. That meets the requirement. So I'm just saying, how can you do it? That's one way people do it.
John, let me just point out, first of all, you asked for the mission statement. We did pass a motion here, and we had an objective. We elaborated for the mission statement, which was sent to all of you. Number 2, we are looking at a professional development that's embedded, and that's one of the key buzzwords out there in education today. Embedded means just that it's actually done in the classroom. There are 18 hours required by the state. We're looking for professional development beyond that, but that is done in the classroom, embedded. So we're not recreating anything, it's out there. And the last thing you mentioned is we are doing a report, but we're in the process of gathering all this information. We have a big committee that Matt is getting lots of accolades about running, because it's a big committee and there's a lot of things talked about. We're staying on task, but it is quite an endeavor to get the information and put it where it belongs.
Now, is the goal of the committee to initiate change? Is that one of the purposes, is you would like to see change initiated? I think that's what I need to hear. I need to, that's what an ad hoc committee is. The purpose of an ad hoc committee is to, there's a problem.
Right.
And now you need a solution. So are you moving into a direction of change? If this ad hoc committee is moving in the direction of change and is looking to initiate, then there needs to be an administrator on the committee, because as a board, you do not have the ability to initiate change. You can suggest the change, but you can't initiate it.
John, we're looking for a solution. That might not include a change. I mean, we are investigating everything. We're looking for a solution.
If I may, I am very clear that the schools are owned by the parents and by the taxpayers, period. They're not owned by the Board of Education, they're not owned by the administration, they're owned by the town council. And if anybody has to change, it has to be us. Maybe it has to be administration, maybe it has to be the council. I heard it all fall long knocking on doors, parents wanted something done. If this is a way to get something done where an ad hoc committee is collecting information that will come up to this board level for a discussion about what, if anything, we should do, I'm all for it. Because those folks said we want to know, we want something to happen, and this is a way to make it happen. And if it's an issue with our policies or the definitions of it, then we need to change those policies, not our parents.
Any other discussion? Kevin?
Switching gears to a different subject, I was very pleased this evening regarding an action item, the capstone project that we had voted on. Mr. Moore and his team, specifically Mrs. Bazinskis, had an excellent presentation at our subcommittee meeting earlier this week. And Mr. Cassio brought up an excellent point regarding cost. And obviously, it's very easy for all of us to say yes to things up here, but I think this is going to be very valuable as we move forward. It's going to keep a lot of these kids engaged in their senior year, which, if you talk to a lot of parents who have seniors, that things tend to kind of drift off into maybe March, April. And it's going to put each kid who goes through this, each student, it's going to put all their talents front stage, every student that passes through Wethersfield High School. And they're going to be able to give themselves a little, put themselves on display for everyone to see. I just urge all committee members, because I'm sure once this pilot gets up and going and they find some results, they're gonna come back and let us know how it went, to really just follow this along, because it's an excellent project, I think, as we move forward.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, I have a comment, and I actually wrote it down because I wanted to make sure I said it the right way, and it has to do with our childhood presentation that was done tonight, our early childhood. The WEC's objective is to identify areas of focus and get everyone working towards a mutual goal of making children in Wethersfield better off. And we all want that, exactly, for our kids. WEC's objective would give our young citizens the attention they need to have a successful school career. So I think of WEC, and I also eventually think of an expanding pre-K. So a program in terms, all of this as building blocks. And a good builder realizes that without a solid foundation, their work will not be strong and lasting. And as an educator, and all of us up here as educators can use the same idea of building blocks. WEC is the start of that foundation for learning, strong and lasting. And I am very quickly learning our budget process and all the restraints, but I do believe that this should be one of our top priorities, is to get that foundation of the Wethersfield school system at its earliest age. Any other comments?
Peter.
Oh, thank you. And Peter, my apologies, but Peter.
Obviously, there's been a lot of change in the school since vacation ended, the second and fourth floors being open primarily. And obviously, there's been transition between both teachers and students just by just things like the different ways going across the school. We had to learn the new map layout of the school, switching classrooms and et cetera and all that. But I think we're all hanging in there. We're all very glad to see change happening in the high school, and we're very excited to see how this renovation goes. I just wanted to reference the news report that we all saw yesterday about, it showed a lot of negative aspects or it portrayed the school as a negative, as more negative as opposed to a positive thing. And I think that brought a new sense of school pride among the students as they disagreed with that. There was a Twitter post yesterday as well, or maybe it was today, showcasing like images of the different aspects of the new renovated parts of our school. And I think that was pretty exciting. A lot of people found that very exciting to see. And also, I have to plug in JETS again, once again, the design engineering team. We handed in everything, I think, last Wednesday, so we have 2 teams who have entered in this competition, and we're looking for a result.
Fabulous. Okay, are there any other board comments going forward?
Just in response to Peter's about the high school renovation, Peter is a member of the class of 2016 who they have been the class that has been there through the whole 4 years. I remember freshman year at the groundbreaking ceremony. So kudos to your class for getting through this. And we don't hear many complaints from these kids about the school. And I think that we did it right when we did the phase-in of it, because as Mr. Morris said too at the PTA meetings, from that period, I don't know if it was the fall of 13 or 14, but like almost every 6 months, the kids are seeing a result. And that has kept them positive, I think. It wasn't, all doom and gloom. Every time they came back, there was something new and amazing for them. And I have to tell you, that 200 and 400 wing, it seems like only yesterday we were leaving football games, and you could literally look through that building and see nothing except lights hung. So to me, that's amazing that when I drove by there today to pick somebody up, that there were classes going on. So I think that's pretty positive.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, may I have a motion to move to executive session on personnel matters?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so thank you, ladies and gentlemen.